Welcome to the November 13th, 2018 episode of Reactive Consciousness, the in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And Fakafon.
Welcome
back.
back.
Fakafon. Back
Hello.
again. So, are you feeling better? I know you were under the weather.
I'm actually really good now, especially compared to last week.
Yeah. Did you have a sinus thing going on or something?
I had a lot of things going on, and I don't want to get into specifics because yuck.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
Fun.
I don't want to get into discharging and such, but
Yuck.
no, I
God.
totally get it. And I've had a new cat in the house, so I've been preoccupied for sure.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah. I've always had a cat at my parents' place, but I never had a cat of my own, I guess you could say. And me and my girlfriend got our first pet together, so it's quite good.
So what kind of cat is this? Is it like a black cat or like stripes? And
She's like a tuxedo cat. Her name is Pepper.
dude, tuxedo cat sounds amazing.
Yeah, she's dressed up for every occasion.
Can you teach her
I'm
to
gonna
play the
draw a fan
bongos
art
so
of
she
that.
could transcend reality?
She's about just as cool as Bongo Cat. About.
Whoa.
Yeah. No.
But is
she's
she as
quite
cool
good.
as Long Cat?
Oh.
She's not as long as Long Cat. Because
Certainly
Long
not.
Cat is long.
Long Cat is long. Old memes, ladies and gentlemen.
I first of all wanted to start off the cast this week because I know we usually don't do like timely things for us, but I did want to mention this because when I get to mention it, I think it's a cool thing. So apparently Christopher Nolan oversaw a restoration, or no, it's an unrestored copy rather of 2001 Space Odyssey from the direct negatives. And they showed it on an IMAX screen at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia.
Nice.
And me and my girlfriend went to go see that on their big planetarium fuck off IMAX screen,
Yeah.
gigantic.
I think I've been there once for a field trip,
Nice.
that giant planetarium thing.
It was so cool. It was one of the first IMAX screens in the entire country.
Yeah,
So
and is it full 360 degrees or is it 270? It's something crazy.
No, it goes all the way around, but obviously with a commercially made film,
Well,
it's
yeah,
not
the
going
movie
to...
wouldn't do that, but it is a
Yeah.
ridiculous screen.
Yeah. No, it was really cool. It was really ridiculously big. They have these big stadium seats.
Yep.
It was an experience I wouldn't really get to have otherwise. So it was really cool. She thought of me and thought of doing something I would really like. 2001 Space Odyssey is my favorite movie. Everybody knows that I'm a big, all of our fans know that I'm a big film nerd, and I even
Wait,
used
what?
to teach teach film and.
Since when?
You know what? Even just having you here, Fakafon, reminds me of one of my favorite film moments of my life. So you're a native of Montreal, correct?
That's right.
And one of my favorite moments of my life was actually going to Montreal in the summertime, where they have a film festival almost every night, and they were projecting Blade Runner on the side of a building.
Nice.
And playing the audio for people to enjoy it down below. And
Oh, sweet.
it was so cool. And I went there with my parents, and also my parents didn't like the movie. They went in knowing that I was a big fan of it, but they actually were paying attention and really watching it because they knew I liked it. So there must be something to it. And they both my dad came out went into it being highly critical of the film, and now it's one of his favorite movies.
I love it when shit like that happens.
You
It's so
should
It's
cool.
just one of those things.
You should have
you know?
really hyped them up. You know how sometimes when you're showing a movie to a friend or something, you're like, "Oh man, this is my favorite part." You should have done that just before the scan, enhance scene. It's like, son of a bitch.
In the future, photos will bend around light and do all kinds of crazy shit. But yeah, I really had a great time doing that, and it was just a really great night. We had gone to this really great crepe restaurant, and we had savory crepes for dinner, like with like pork loin in it. It was just one of
Oh,
those
dude.
nights. It was a perfect temperature, everything. During the summertime, Montreal is beautiful. I love it. It's not too hot because of how far north it is, and it's just the best. It's kind of like one of our good spring days here in the Northeast in the New Jersey, Pennsylvania area. Unfortunately, we don't get many days like that during the fall and spring much anymore. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a good time. So, anyways, 2001: Space Odyssey was really cool, just like seeing the majesty of it, on this gigantic screen. Especially, when you go to the Star Warp scene and all that stuff. So,
It's Star Wars.
oh, okay, yeah, I forgot. No, Star Trek is the proper term.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
but but yeah, really good stuff. Once again, it's my favorite movie, but I understand why people wouldn't like it and don't recommend it for everyone. It
Yeah,
is a
I
slow
saw
ass
it.
movie.
I saw it for the first and only time a couple of years ago, and it's a good thing that was the first time because if I had watched that when I was even in college, I think I would have hated it. Like,
Yeah.
when do things happen? But that's not what the movie's trying to do.
Well,
It was like Doctor No. I watched Doctor No when I was like in high school or something. I didn't even make it through the movie. I was like I was out in like 20 minutes. I'm like, this is goddamn boring. And then when we did our thing, like where we're trying to watch every Bond movie with me, Perry, and Pyro Jack Frost. I was dreading the beginning of all that because the Doctor No was the first movie, and I actually really enjoyed it. Like it turns out that the only Bond movies I had seen at the time were the Pierce Brosnan ones because those are the ones that were in the theaters. So I was
and they're
like,
real
why isn't
flashy.
action happening? Because that was my only context with Bond. And it turns out that Doctor No is Bond doing spy
Okay.
stuff. Like
Yeah,
there's
he's
like
a spy.
yeah, there are scenes. I mean, not multiple in one movie usually, but there's usually like one scene in each Connery movie that's like a couple of minutes long. That's nothing but him going into a hotel, like staying in his room. But before he turns out for the night or turns in, he like painstakingly checks every piece of furniture for spy gear. Like, am I being watched? He like takes the mirror off the wall, puts it back. When I was a kid, it was like unbearable. But like as like when I was older, I was totally into it.
By the time Pierce Brosnan becomes like Bond, like he's given up all pretense that he's a spy. Like he's just
Well,
like
yeah,
this well-known man that comes in and fucks your shit
well,
up.
yeah, like the Pierce
Like a
Brosnan
spy
came.
is supposed to be incognito. You're not supposed to know he's a spy.
Yeah, like well, this is after the Roger Moore era where it was just camp. Like there was
Yeah,
just like
yeah,
high chase, like cool chase scenes, but like it was all about the chase scenes and the over the top
yeah.
villains, which is what Bond is generally known for now. But like even at the time, they were really stupid. Like in the Roger Moore
Yeah.
era, I like those movies, but they're dumb.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, you have to know what you're getting into. You have to have like some. You know that you're watching like cheesecake.
Yeah,
You know,
although I will say
exactly.
Jaws' first appearance, because Jaws eventually became a household name and he became more like relatable. But Jaws' very first appearance, and I don't mean the movie, I mean the first scene with him,
Yeah,
that was legit scary. Like he's
yeah.
terrifying. He's like ripping a truck apart as Bond's trying to drive away in it. It's like, oh my god, fuck this.
Back in the day, Jaws was the only villain that was in more than one movie, which was amazing.
He
That's
was the
true.
only.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I think he also transitioned over an actor too, which didn't happen. So like when James Bond changed actors, he was there
Oh
as well.
really?
That's
Yeah.
I don't
awesome.
think I knew that.
Yeah. I think it was like Odd Job also showed up in a couple movies too, right?
No way.
I don't
He was
think
in
so.
Goldfinger. No.
It was
Yeah,
just
he's in
only
Goldfinger,
in
and I think he
Goldfinger?
dies
No,
on that
yeah,
movie.
he clearly dies in Goldfinger.
Yeah,
If
gotcha.
if what you saw happen to him didn't kill him, the aftermath certainly did.
Yeah.
Oh no,
He
actually
get-
no,
he
that,
gets
that,
his
that actually that's
redemption
not
in
true. The
Moonraker,
aftermath
right?
would have, but he definitely died on camera.
Jaws gets his redemption in Moonraker and becomes a good guy, right? Isn't that
Yeah,
how it
pretty
works?
I mean, yeah, but then he fucks off to space like he's gonna die.
Jaws in space.
Yep.
So, I would like to see that with like the shark from
And
Jaws.
he
but
doesn't
anyway,
even really become a good guy. He becomes more like I like
sympathetic.
Bond more than my boss who just betrayed me, so I'll deal with this right now.
Well,
Sure,
he has a
sure.
girlfriend.
Yeah, that was interesting. He comes crashing through a building and just gets up, and she's like, "Oh, are you okay?" He's like, "I'm always okay." "Oh, okay." And then they like start a relationship out of nowhere.
That's how
It's
it works.
adorable.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, you're late for school and you put a piece of toast in your mouth and then you fall on her breast and then she's your girlfriend. But anyway,
No, he fell out of the sky into a fucking building, man. He was climbing out of
it's kind of
gears and
similar.
shit.
It's kind of similar. It's anime.
It's pretty
Come on.
similar, yeah. Actually, like, you know that classic, like, cliche romantic song where it goes like na 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 na
Oh
Yeah.
na
yeah.
na, like that actually played, like, in that scene with Jaws and the random
Really?
girl.
I don't
The-
remember that.
It totally did, because like when we were watching it, we all cringed and we're like, "Wait a minute, is this old enough for it actually not to have been a cliche? I'm not
Yeah.
sure."
Is this the trope?
Yeah, because
Like
it's
the
like
origin
it's
of
like
the
Ride
trope?
of the Valkyries. It's like the first time it really must have been cool, but we all roll our eyes whenever we hear it now because it's been so overdone.
Yeah.
Well, I think like the big movie that showed that was Apocalypse Now was like a big movie that showed that.
Because I remember when Watchmen did it, the audience started chuckling, but it was mentioned in the comics as having played during that scene, so it's cliche by our standards, but Watchmen was from like what, the 80s, so like it wasn't as bad like when
Yeah.
it would have
Yeah.
been relevant. So they just went with it in the movie regardless of how perception had changed, which I actually respect.
Well, I should bring this around because this is reactive consciousness, not the exploration of the inanity of pop culture,
Oh,
which
sorry.
would be
what a
corrective
twist.
consciousness. That would be next on Thursday. That would be
Oh.
our next show.
All right,
So
scrap it, do it all over.
we got to rein this in, but I just wanted to talk about that because it was cool as shit, and also she watched the movie for the first time in a very good
And that's how to do it. Yeah.
condition. Same thing with The Room. Like with the festival atmosphere and all that.
Now play
Yeah.
Hardcore Henry in the planetarium.
Oh yeah,
I fucking wish.
I could only be so lucky. But anyway, so we found a bit of news about the PlayStation Classic. What did we find out, Lotus? Here.
Oh man. Okay, so the last time we talked about the PlayStation Classic was when they were announcing its lineup and that the
Yeah, I
system
wasn't
was
around
going
for
to
it,
exist.
unfortunately.
Like we talked about the PlayStation Classic twice. The first time it's going to exist and here's like 4 or 5 games or whatever, and the second time we got the full lineups of both Japanese and not Japanese regions. I think the Western regions were all the same, like Europe and
Yeah.
America. But I'm now that the thing's actually coming out, I've seen some complaints about it online. Like if all you care about is just the games, which is the intended thing to care about, like that's what the casual audience would care about, then you probably already know what you're getting into, so maybe it's not a big deal. But some of the technophiles are quite disappointed because it turns out that apparently the PlayStation Classic is basically a Raspberry Pi, which those have existed forever. So apparently Sony just took like the UI is really bare bones, and I saw comparisons of like the PS1 Classics like select a game menu to like homebrew Wii menus, like original Wii menus that look better, and it was like,
Oh boy.
okay. Apparently, this isn't personally a big deal to me, but it's more of acknowledgement of inferiority from a company perspective. In addition to save files, because you have however many save files your video games would offer, but they're like the PlayStation Classic comes with a save state option, and you get a save slot. But the thing is, the NES, I think, and the SNES Classic have like 4 save state options. Again, I don't know how many of those you're actually going to need to use, but it's a little weird that they came out a while ago with 4, and Sony's like, let's
Yeah.
do 1. Like, again, are you using all 4? Maybe not, maybe even probably not, but like, it's just a weird decision to make from Sony's
Yeah,
own perspective.
I mean, why have less?
That's the thing, like, we already have 2 established products, and you're like actively making it, again, it's not like noticeably inferior, but it's a weird decision. But something I saw that really is kind of unforgivable is apparently some games were like the wrong region for which system
What?
they're selling to.
That's weird.
Like an NTSC
What?
region
Really?
might get like a PAL version of that game, and it's like,
Oh, that's weird. No.
and remember, this is the pre-HD era, so that might mean I haven't seen this tested, but that could mean like 5/6 speed because PAL
Yeah.
was operating on 50 hertz.
It's actually the other way around. It's
Oh, the other way
60
around?
hertz. Yeah, we were on 50, they were on 60.
Oh, excuse me. Okay.
But yeah, same idea. Meaning they have a slowed down. We would have a slowed down version of their games and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it just, or we have a sped up version of their games and they have a slowed down version of our games.
Yeah, it's
Is
bizarre.
Is there any particular reason you know why they did that? Maybe they had a
Yes.
technical reason. Yeah.
I doubt that was intentional. That's just a weird decision. Like
Yeah,
it
it's
might have
just a
been just a
stupid
flub.
decision.
And the
Yeah.
only other
okay.
thing I saw that was mentioned on Twitter was that apparently the system runs an emulator called PCSX Rearmed, but like I don't know much about these emulators, but from what I've read on Twitter comments, that's like an old emulator. So
I think so. Yeah.
So like Sony that's not even like a mistake. That just sounds like sort of just like a lazy job of putting the thing together. Like
So-
you may as well just run a current emulator on your PC or something and hook up a PS1 controller to it at that point.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I guess.
I've heard a bunch of different arguments on this, and one person that chimed in was Frank Cifaldi, who is very much a proponent of an early proponent of emulation and the ROM like sharing scene.
Mm-hmm.
He is very much into game preservation, not really piracy, but preservation. And he's been working on preserving like documentation and art and all, anything he can find from these games and in that era, in all eras really, but and also preserving games and making them like unfinished games, unfinished prototypes, things like that.
Okay.
And getting them, released to the wild. Like he's the guy who worked on Bioforce Ape when.
That Jesus.
Yeah. So like he actually arranged to pool money together in order to buy it from a collector so people could dump it.
That's amazing.
And now it's freely available to anybody on the internet.
Cool.
So like he's the kind of guy who does this, and he's overseen quite a few classic collections recently. So the big ones that he works with Digital Eclipse or Backbone Entertainment. I forget which one it currently is, but he worked on the Mega Man Legacy collections.
Okay.
He worked on the Disney Afternoon collection. And the the one with Darkwing Duck and
Chip and Dale.
DuckTales and Chip and Dale on it. And he also recently just had the SNK 40th anniversary collection that he worked on, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But he's a big proponent of these kinds of things, and he said basically, he understands why people might think it kind of stinks, but he was just like, first of all, why reinvent the wheel if you're going to come out with something like this? So why not just use an emulator that's already done, that's already mature, that already has a lot of the bugs worked out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good. It's a good idea from that perspective, and this one in particular is an open source one. So that's probably why it's being used. So it makes sense from that perspective. I can understand why people, when they look into the guts of it, are like feeling a little cheated. But you got to remember, the people that are doing the analysis on this are ultra nerds. They're like us, They're like people that know this stuff inside and out, like the back of their hand. That probably still have their old PlayStation 1s, their PlayStation 2s, their PlayStation 3s, their PlayStation 4s, just like I do, just like Lotus does. Why are you complaining? This isn't for you. I guess their argument is, the sloppiness of putting, wrong region games. That's unexcusable. That kind of thing. That's just stupid. But expecting for them to come up with, an in-house emulator every time they want to do this kind of thing is, first of all, the wrong expectation. And second of all, it's not necessary.
Well, I don't know if people were complaining about a lack of a brand new created today emulator, just so much as that this is quite an old emulator.
Yeah, I think it works though. So why does it matter?
Mm-hmm.
And it probably works with a Unix system, like Raspberry Pi.
Oh, a Unix. I know this.
But I guess the argument is, if you want FPGA core kind of stuff, you can get a Mister, or you can wait until Analog comes out with their Sony PS. You know what I
Oh, I
mean? Like,
fucking wish. Oh
I
my
mean,
god.
why though? I mean, like, you have complete access to everything you ever wanted for those systems if you really wanted to. You even have a SIO. I mean,
Oh, I know, but like that upscaling.
oh well, okay. Oh, I think probably what I would want is a mod chip for my PS3. I have a backwards
Oh
compatible
my god,
PS3,
yeah.
so playing any PlayStation 2 game or PlayStation 1 game on it would be heaven for me, and it already upscales and all that stuff. So, it already does everything you would want it to.
Honestly, I mean, this is starting to deviate a little bit, but
Yeah,
honestly, I think I would rather have an upscaling PS2 than a modded PS3 because, like, the yellow light of death, from what I've heard, happened to so many of those old PS3s
sure.
because they weren't emulating PS2s. They basically had a PS2 built inside them, and that
Yeah.
contributed to overheating the system.
Ah, shit.
Oh, apparently it was bad thermal paste. You might be able to have
Oh, no
somebody
kidding?
like condition the system.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be something that but that's out of the scope of this. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
um I think that if this is a really weird system. I really don't like that it doesn't have Crash Bandicoot in it, because if you were making this for people that really were casual gamers, having Crash Bandicoot and Crash Team Racing on it are like essential. And Spyro, for that matter. I don't think Spyro's on it either, right?
yeah. It's weird because I think people were speculating maybe it's not there because they're releasing the
Well,
Spyro
they're third party.
Reignited trilogy, but that's like
Yeah, well,
precisely why it should
still.
be on there, like to
Yeah,
hype it up.
exactly.
Yeah. So I think Sony is. I think the fans that are complaining about it are a little extra, but I also like they're a little over the top here. But I also think Sony's screwing up. So I think both have
Yeah,
some
some of the
points.
complaints are a little like
Yeah,
if you're buying it for your kids, no one's gonna ever know. But like the wrong regions on the games. Although actually, one thing I'm curious about because I really don't know anything about this. Do the games have digital manuals? Because that'd be
they
great.
should. They should.
They really should.
Hopefully,
Again,
yeah.
especially because the NES and SNES classics did that. Like,
Mhm.
how do you see these two systems and not do it? So I would hope that they do, but I don't know for sure.
So I guess my big concern is, like, you put the original Persona on here. Now that is an ultra crunchy game. That is a game for nerdy
Well, that was
people.
Japan only, wasn't it?
No, it's American. It's the American version of Persona 1.
Oh, that's
With all of
disappointing.
why?
Well, because Japan would probably have gotten the Japanese version, right? Which is the complete game.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a missing dungeon. There's some localization issues with this
Yeah.
version of Persona 1.
Really?
They
That's weird.
they also made a character black when he wasn't in the original. They did all kinds of crazy stuff. It was a very liberal localization when they made.
But it's
Um,
weird. How come they took out a dungeon? Was it like too offensive for us poor Americans or something?
Well, no.
no,
From what I read on GameFAQs, this doesn't concern why it was removed, but from what I read on GameFAQs, it sounds like the hardest dungeon in any video game ever. I don't even remember what was
yeah,
hard about it, but it sounded
it's like the White Queen's Palace or something.
hair-pullingly, like insanely hard.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
it's very, very difficult. It's an optional thing, but it was taken out.
Yeah, I think it was restored on the PSP version, though, wasn't it?
Yes. So the PSP version is a completely restored game with. It's a remake too, so like it
Okay.
has quality of life improvements and stuff. So
Sweet.
what I'm trying to say is the original. You don't want to. Nobody wants to play this original version, this version of Persona anymore. First of all, like, the PSP version is way better than the original. So like, if you want to play it on your Vita, your PSP, your PlayStation TV. That's fine. But like, Shin Megami Tensei nerds don't want to play it. Like, nobody wants to play it. Like casual gamers for sure don't want to play it. All they want to play is Final Fantasy VII, maybe Tactics, if that. because those two were probably the two biggest RPGs on the system. Wild Arms is a good pick too. That's a really
Yeah.
good RPG for anybody, not even just hardcore gamers, but like that's a good casual RPG as well. Uh, I think they like some of the games are weird choices. It's just is, and like
Well,
they missed a couple of the big ones.
that might actually be a good thing, right? I mean, to try out a few games that people would not normally play, I guess.
Well, yeah, it's a
part
more
of a bundle.
eclectic assortment.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you have
Yep.
Metal Gear, which is super important. You have
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII, and you also have like a couple really good underground games. Like you have Intelligent Cube, which is like a really good game,
That
but
was a
not
that game
many
is
people
awesome.
got a chance to play that. So I mean, I think this is going to be good overall. I mean, I think it has Parappa the Rapper, which is another good casual game.
Punch, kick.
Yeah, I never liked that game, by the way. I'll come out and say it. I always found that like the timing was off. Like I could never figure out the timing with that game. But anyway,
That reminds me of Space Channel 5. Like, that game is, like, surprisingly
oh, that's just
difficult.
hard.
I
Yeah.
made it to the end of the first one, but I couldn't beat it because it just got too ridiculous.
Speaking of Space Channel 5, there was a recent sale on Steam where they had like a bunch of the Dreamcast to PC ports on sale.
Oh.
So they had the original Crazy Taxi PC version.
Oh, I never knew
for
that hit PC.
Oh yeah, it's on Steam.
Wow.
Nice.
They did it because they ported it to 360
Okay.
last generation, so they put it on PC while at the same time. So you have like stuff like Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 are for PC now.
Yeah,
but
that
anyway,
I knew, which was still surprising at the time I learned it.
yeah, I mean even Sega Bass Fishing is on Steam.
Wow.
But why, though?
Space Channel Part 2, Space Channel 5 Part 2 is on Steam, and so
Ooh,
is
you can unlock
Knights.
Space Michael.
Exactly. But
That was
anyway,
the weirdest thing ever.
yeah. But of course, remember that the game, the version of Crazy Taxi from this era was neutered because they had to take out the licensed songs.
Which is like the only thing anybody remembers about that game, by the way. It's like Tony
man, I
Hawk
wanna
Pro
drive
Skater
around
1.
the
Everybody
Offspring.
remembers the hangar first level and the song that came with it, and they
Yeah,
know
yeah.
the whole game was good, but they only really remember that part because you played it all the time.
Because it was like, was it Goldfinger? Bringing that back around, I think that was the song that was the band that was playing.
I don't remember actually what
it was
the
a
band
punk
was
band from
called,
back
just how it
then.
sounded.
Yeah. But anyway, I got the original Crazy Taxi for $1.50, and there's a mod out there for this version to first of all fix up the controls so they were like pressure sensitive, so they're really good with a 360 controller
Oh, that's
good.
pretty
on
cool.
PC, and
Bring
it
Offspring
puts all
back.
it has all the original music in it. I'm so happy. So happy. So it's like the best version of Crazy Taxi you could ever play because it's in widescreen and everything.
Nice.
So it's not stretched. It's like native widescreen. So it's really, really cool. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't know. What's your thought on the emulator thing on PS1 on the PS1 Classic here?
Well, I'm the everyman, so I don't really mind.
Yeah, I think as long as it works, I'm okay. Like I don't care with the method. To be
Yeah,
honest.
pretty much, yeah.
Personally, like, if no one had told me, I never would have known. But now that I do know, it's kind of like, huh.
Well, I guess what's more bothersome is the fact that there's less save states and just the thing you said about like the PAL regions.
Yeah,
And the...
again, for most players, it probably doesn't even matter. It's just weird to me. Like, we've seen Nintendo Classic that came out, like, what, a couple years ago, and they're like, let's do less.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a weird decision.
Yeah.
It seems more half baked than the than the Nintendo products. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
For sure.
And
Maybe
again, people
Sony-
were
maybe
complaining
the
about the
Sony,
super bare bones UI.
Maybe the
Yeah.
Sony employees are just really tired and like just do it. I don't care anymore.
Yeah. So this is some sad news and kind of an end of an era kind of thing coming up here. Prima Games shut down. Yeah, I that was only about a day ago that we heard about this, right? This was on Friday.
Yeah, a couple
Something
days
like that.
ago. Like, yeah, and Prima was like your childhood like strategy guide company, along with like Brady Games.
Yeah. So that's really sad because like a lot of the people that put in a lot of really good work to make sure that these guides were really good and complete, lost their jobs. So, like, these were people that were really meticulous about their jobs. And Prima guides kind of had a bad rap at first back in the the PS1 era, but then they got really good, and they stayed good. Probably until right around now.
Well, like, I can't speak for in general, and I haven't even checked out this guide, so I don't have a personal opinion. But I did hear that, like, you know how the Dark Souls and Bloodborne guides were by Future Press?
Yeah,
and then
I really like the Future Press ones. They're really
oh my god,
nice.
they're so good. But then all of a sudden, Future Press didn't do Dark Souls 3, and then Prima did, and like their book looked kind of like the Future Press ones, but like apparently people were complaining about the Prima Dark Souls 3 guide, saying it was like inaccurate and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Well, for that kind of game, I kind of give it a pass because it's so goddamn complicated. But at the same time, you know, it should be accurate because you need a guide in those games,
well,
essentially.
The thing with those games is
pretty
that
much.
like it really comes down to item locations and how to complete quests. So it's not as complicated. Like, it's not as complicated as you would think. There are still step-by-step processes to do things. Obviously, once things get patched, then all that goes out the window. You can't blame anybody for that. But apparently, the inaccurate information was still a thing. So I don't know.
I mean, I can understand why Prima would be going out of business. I mean, it makes sense because this day and age, games are living, breathing things much more than they used to be.
Yeah.
So, it was always a thing of mine that I always kind of knew I was going to buy something that was going to become outdated, so I only kind of bought it as like a piece of memorabilia, and that was the case with the guides with the Dark Souls games.
Oh my god, yeah, you've got to see Dark Souls guides now that the Dark Souls games
2.
are fully patched. Like, not even close. Dark Souls 2 is like a different game.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a totally different game now. So
the thing is, though, some strategy guide companies have adapted to this by releasing, like, if you buy their guide, then you get a free copy of the digital guide, which will update because it's digital.
That's cool.
Yeah, so
no, that was
is
really
pretty
good.
Rad. But like Dark Souls
really
2,
good.
there is nothing you can do if you bought. I mean, they probably did get a digital update for it, but Scholar of the First Sin is just different from the base game, right down to like having an alternate ending, having a different boss. There's all the DLC stuff. It's like it's a whole thing.
All
going
rearranged
on.
too.
What was it?
It's all rearranged too.
Yeah,
It?
different
like,
item placements.
Yeah.
Some for better, some for worse, I think. But yeah, it is radically different. I actually got the Dark Souls 1 strategy guide, but then it turns out that Future Press actually released a physical copy of the Dark Souls remastered guide. So I kind of have like the version 1.0 guide and then the remastered. And man, there are some differences. Like cursing reduces you to half health, but in the original game you could go down to like 1/16 health if you kept getting cursed, and the game's like unplayable.
Speaking of, I'm going through the hell that is New Londo Ruins right now. Lotus and I had a conversation offline here about how I needed to tackle this place. And you know what? I was having a really hard time with the Dark Race when I first met them, but now I actually put in some effort into learning how to backstab. I know
it genuinely
I sound like a
blows
pleb.
my mind that you're over halfway through the game and you like didn't know how to backstab. I'm like, how are the enemies not already dead?
Well, you know what the problem was? I was holding the shield button, so therefore I wasn't backstabbing.
Oh no, that only works with spears, and even then, I don't think for backstabbing. But spears are the only weapon. Like the gimmick of spears is that you can attack while blocking. I don't know about backstabbing, but like with everything else, you have to release your left hand and stab with the right hand.
So a lot of the mechanics I've been missing because of the nature of the way I was playing. For instance, sliding down ladders fast. The reason why I was missing that is because I was holding down on the ladder, while I was on the ladder, and it only works if you just hit circle.
Oh, that might have been my problem as well, because I'm pretty sure in Dark Souls 2, Oh no, in Dark Souls 2 they had to make a difference because like you can hold circle for speedy either way. So are you
Yeah.
climbing up or are you climbing down? So in Dark Souls 1 I guess you just press the button cuz I think I was playing with Dark Souls 2 controls cuz even when I borrowed the controller from you I'm like, "No, I know you can slide down. Like there's a
Yeah.
part where I did it
There's a
over and over
particular
again."
quirk to it.
Yeah.
Apparently, so I didn't know that until like I read online. It's like why can't some other poor sap was having the same trouble, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was able to get
But like
that.
the
But
way I was able to fight dark wraiths was just when they slash or grab, get behind them, backstab, and when they get up, two-hand your weapon, slash once, slash twice, the fight is over. Like they don't
yeah,
even get to do anything.
well, you'll be happy to learn that dark wraiths are not a problem for me anymore.
No,
So
like yeah, like
I'm
the
I'm
second like
murdering them.
yeah, when you were saying like New Londo Ruins is the worst, I'm like, yeah, man, it is the worst. And you're like, I'm up to the dark wraiths part, and I'm like, you're done
You're
with the
past
bad part
the
then.
hard
Like you're
part.
through the worst of it. Like except for the boss, like you're like the hard times should be over.
Yeah, and not only that, but I got my large ember and I got my sword to plus 15. So
There you go.
I'm very
Yeah,
happy. But anyway,
that's very good. Yeah,
so right now I'm just trying to get past the four kings, which is a pain in the ass.
they
Um,
suck.
so what I heard I should be doing is since I'm a pyromancer, I can give myself the spell that will basically make me into a berserker. I think it's like 40 plus damage,
Okay.
40% damage plus. But your health ticks down, but you'll be wrecking them so quickly, especially with a plus 15 sword, that you should be all right.
See, I actually did something kind of similar, even though I don't have a pyro build. I put on the Havel armor set, whether or not I was ready to actually wear it, because it's very magic resistant.
Ah,
And then like don't even equip the shield. Just like there's a certain shield that restores stamina. Like put it on your back,
it's the crescent shield. Yeah,
or
that's the one.
equip the Havel shield and use it as an actual shield to block their magic explosion attack because that will destroy you
yeah, that
otherwise.
sucks.
Havel
Yeah.
shield blocks it pretty well, but if you can't wield it, then put on a stamina regen shield and just wear it on your back. Don't use it as an actual shield. Wear your magic resistant armor. Use lightning resin to give your sword an electric attack, and just YOLO. Just run in there, two-hand, and wail on them, and just
Yeah.
hope that they go down before you go down. By the way, one little pro tip: you know how the ghosts have those gigantic swords?
Yeah.
If they start swinging, get in there. Because the tip does way more damage than anywhere else. So if they
Yeah, I've
swing while you're
noticed.
brushed up against them, it's surprisingly not bad.
I got pretty far into the fight. I actually got to the fifth king.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
During my Let's Play, when I tried fighting the four kings, I at first died to the five kings, but when I finally won, I killed all three kings. Oh, by the
Yeah,
way,
I got-
another pro tip, by the way. When they die, as they're fading away, keep hitting them. It still counts as them being there.
Oh,
It's
okay, and
just
that'll
free
do
hits.
damage to,
Yeah.
to the
Like, if you're
overall bar,
really,
huh?
really efficient, then you can completely eliminate a king and give yourself a couple seconds to breathe before another one even shows up.
That's what I heard. So that's why I'm gonna get that cast that YOLO spell on myself.
Yeah,
And
and
just
by the
go
way,
out
I think if you
better.
summon NPC help, the kings
The witch.
spawn a little faster. So
Yeah, it's not very good unless except in the first
yeah,
go
yeah.
around.
Like she's another target, so that's something. But when there's four kings, it's like, man.
Yeah, she's not very helpful. But
Yeah, no.
apparently, if you want to get her drop, her arbor set, you gotta have her help. So, anyway, back to Prima.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right, that's the.
I think Future Press is still around, and they were
Yeah.
the ones that were making Nintendo Power before that folded.
Hmm.
So I understand why this is going under. Like I have a very great affinity for really awesome guides. I mean, especially like I don't know if you guys remember the double jump guides when those were around, but those
No,
were
I don't
the
remember.
shit.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, they were the ones that made the the Nocturne guide, Shin Megami Tensei 3, Persona 3 guide. They made like a lot of the really good a lot of the games for the NISA games and NIS games.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, they made guides for like Disgaea, things like that. Even though
I think I've seen those. Those are like physically small guides.
they are, but they're thick and they're dense and they're very
Yeah, it's very Japanese style.
technical. They're
Yeah.
very technical, and they were really great. But I love stuff like this. I also like having a curio for the games I
Yeah.
really like. Like if I really love a game, I will pick up the guide for it just to have it.
Yeah, like a lot of the reason I bought guides back in the day was like kind of to look at the pictures and see like
Yeah,
bestiary
the lore.
information. Like I wasn't using it to help me actually beat the game. It was
Yeah, that's always
just
fun.
cool to see the guide. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, one of
Yeah.
my favorite like things from my childhood is I have the there's a couple Nintendo Power issues that were special issues that were actually strategy guides for specific games. They
Yeah.
had one for Final Fantasy. They had one for Ninja Gaiden. One or I think it's Ninja Gaiden 2. They also had one for the 4-player NES games when the 4 score came out.
Oh,
But
nice.
the one that's my favorite is the one for Super Mario Brothers 3. Um, and in this, it had like a list of all the and a description of all the enemies. And
I
this
love
is the only
stuff like
kind of
that.
place.
I
It's
love
the
that
only
shit.
kind of
Yeah.
place where you'll see the name of these characters. Because they're
Yeah.
not all of them are in the
Well,
instruction
yeah, that
manual.
was. Well, I was just gonna say that was like my
Yeah.
favorite thing about instruction manuals back in the day too. Like I think I might have mentioned this on the air before, but Altered Beast, the first Genesis
Oh
game.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You know how it's the most basic game ever. Like you walk to
Sure.
the right, you
Punch the
punch
dudes.
things, and
Power
like
up.
that is the strategy. Yeah, you get 3 of the blue orbs, you turn into a were creature, you fight the boss. Like there is no real strategy. Like I mean, like you want to not die, but the game's hard, but you don't need a strategy guide for that,
Just
right?
punch dudes and walk.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
like
pretty
it's
much.
like you can like it's an arcade game, so it's designed to be beaten in like 20-25 minutes. But like the instruction manual was like fucking 30 pages. It's like one of the biggest instruction manuals I've ever gotten, and it was for that game.
Like for
Like
the story and all that
like
stuff and the
I mean
description of the
like
bad
there are
guys.
modern games. I mean games don't really do much instruction manuals anymore, but like in the PS2, PS3 era, like those manuals were shorter than fucking Altered Beast. Like Altered Beast was a book. It was amazing.
So I guess my point is that I'm sad that a major player in this field is going. I mean, I understand. Like for the most part, I get my strategy from forum posts, FAQs, and walkthroughs and stuff that people post.
Yeah.
Now, like a lot of websites, like IGN and other big websites will post guides to very popular games. Like you can find their Dark Souls guides and things like that, which is cool. And that's the way to do it because you can update those.
Oh yeah,
And
even on
and also show.
GameFAQs to like guide version like 1.3 or whatever.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean even GameFAQs is kind of old by those standards because like the best guides now have like screenshots, of what you're doing and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and maps and stuff.
Yeah, I've seen stuff like that. Yeah.
Rather than just like the ASCII maps of yore.
Yeah, I know.
We all
GameFAQs
remember
has
those.
evolved past that in terms of being able to click from one part of the guide to the other via a table of
Yeah.
contents, but there are still no pictures.
Yeah, I mean they're super old school. I mean these were originally made in Notepad, that kind of
Oh,
thing.
you
So
could
like
tell too. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it makes sense and they still have their uses, of course. But like even the best. What I'm saying is like a lot of guides have evolved past that right now. So and they're more evolved than just being on a finished slate of paper.
Oh no, actually, I was gonna mention that some guides go and just do an entirely different thing. Like for Baldur's Gate, the original, and for I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, those guides are in the form of a story, like you're reading a book.
Yeah.
And with I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, they actually have a separate section in the guide, which is just the straight up efficient guide, like enter this room, pick up this item. But like they give you a full on novella if you're into that, which is super cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
in fact, Nintendo used to produce their own official guides through the Nintendo Power label, and those were my favorite guides of the day because they were official and really they had everything you could ever want. Like one of my favorite guides of all time is the Link's Awakening guide that they came out with. It's so good, and it even has like fun stuff you can do. Like there's a lot of hidden goofy stuff that you could do in Link's Awakening. But anyway, their guide for Ocarina of Time is like that. So it basically tells it as a narrative.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's pretty cool. But yeah,
Actually, now that I think about it, my King's Quest guide does that as well for King's Quest 1 through 6, and there's an updated one for 1 through 7. But they have story versions and guide versions, which is pretty cool too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What is cool though is that because games like have a longer tail than they used to. Like, back in the PS2 era, you would play a game and kind of forget about it. But nowadays, I think games have a much longer tail, especially with like adding like remastered versions and HD versions of 4K restorations. They're like games get updated even from like 10 years ago and from 5 years ago. So games tend to have their fans that stick around with them now a lot longer than they used to.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of the the internet culture of things getting around. I mean, Undertale is never going to be a game that people forget about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is, because of this, there are going to be more potential for things like the Dark Horse like fan books, like like the Zelda Hyrule Historia, that kind of thing.
Oh, sure.
I feel like there is, especially with Dark Souls, you could have a lore book just for like the whole series, and you could sell that, and you don't need the strategy end of it, which
actually,
you can get elsewhere.
What's kind of funny? I would kill for a lore book, but what's kind of funny is the Japanese Super Collector's edition of the Dark Souls trilogy had like 3 books, one for each Dark Souls game, where the funny thing is technically they are lore books, but it's just every item in the game with a description, and like that is the lore, really, if you think about it. I would love if they had English releases of that. I would be there so fast.
Yeah, I don't know why we're not getting that, because
I was so disappointed.
It's not like people wouldn't buy it here. Like
it was
we care about these games.
It was like stupidly disappointing. Like the Japanese collector's edition was like $500. It was outrageously expensive because it came with like bookends and stuff. But like the American collection was just like a steelbook case for the 3 games, and this came shortly after Dark Souls Remastered came out, so it just was kind of a dick move, and like people weren't really into it. Whereas the Japanese version had, like I said, bookends for their books and also soundtrack CDs for each game. It's like, how do you not at least have the soundtrack CDs in the American release?
Yeah. Well, once again, want to express my my gratitude, first of all, for the memories of these Prima guides, because I used to use them.
Are you choking up?
Quite a bit. And it's what was that?
It sounded like you're choking up.
Yeah, it sounded like you were choking up. Like, are you okay?
No. I just had a thing in the back of my throat.
Sure. Yeah.
Also, something in my eye.
There's something in my eye, guys.
But no, the perils of burping while on the air. But anyway, I'm just a gassy person. What do you want? So anyway, I want to thank the people that work there for their great guides. I mean, I really loved their Fallout 3 guide. They did a Game of the Year edition of that, and it had everything you could ever want in it.
Which it was probably huge then, because there was a lot of.
It was gigantic.
Yeah,
it was gigantic. It had great maps. It had really great advice in it. It wasn't just this is what this does. It's just like, no, these are good to synergize with. Don't bother with this one.
That's good
stuff.
stuff.
There's a lot of good stuff in there. And so I really, really, really loved it. And it's a shame that, you're not really going to see that kind of thing anymore. And it's also, you're not going to have that monument unless they make something like those Dark Horse guides or those Dark Horse books later on, if the game is really popular. You're not going to see games like that would, Square Enix would partner with, these companies too, even for a game that may not be that popular, like Resonance of Fate. I mean, Resonance of Fate is getting a re-release now, and it's because it's a cult game. Yeah. But back when it came out, nobody played it. I mean, it was basically like 3 people that I knew of that played it, and
and one of them is right here.
Yeah, it was you and Pyro, and me
I actually
were the only people. Are the
Jeez.
only people that I know of that have played this game.
you know what's funny to do though is like,
it's great though.
You can get used to the combat mechanics. It takes a little bit, but you can. But what's funny is just entering a battle and just showing your friends just play
What
through
you're
one
doing.
fight. No, don't even show them what you're doing. Just have them watch the screen and just go through one fight. And it's like, what the fuck is happening?
These people running around in a triangle, like
Yeah,
throwing grenades,
and they
shooting
all
these big
and you're swapping
fuck-off
characters
guns,
constantly, and everyone's
flipping
firing and throwing
around.
grenades.
Just like craziness. These games. That game is great, but also it's weird.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this before, but on Project Cross Zone 2, I forgot who they're talking to. Maybe it was like Dante or something is talking to one of the members of Resonance of Fate. Like maybe it's Vacheron or something.
Yeah,
and I think, again, I don't
They're
remember.
the same voice actor, yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's what it was. Again, it's like, I
Yeah.
don't remember if it was actually Dante, but Dante does have crazy gunplay, so it might have been him. But I remember Vacheron watching him and going, that's pretty good, but you could use some more flips. It's like, I don't know if you don't know, but like, you really have a million gratuitous like corkscrews through the air and flips. Like,
Yeah, it's the guy who plays Nathan Drake.
Yeah,
what the
Nolan
hell's
North.
his name? Nolan North. Yeah,
but
plays
like when,
both of them.
Zephyr like sprints forward but does a backflip despite carrying himself forward, everyone flips all the time in Residence of Fate, and it's like
It's great.
It's like a low level meme. It's pretty funny.
I
Nice.
love the guns that you make too, like a gun with other guns and like all these scopes
Oh
attached.
yeah,
and
yeah.
all
It's
this,
like a scope adds accuracy. So what if I add like 5 scopes?
Five
It's like what?
stacked
Like,
on top of each other somehow make it better.
yeah, it doesn't translate to gameplay. It's just stat
No.
boosts. But when you look at where your parts are placed on the customization screen, it's like the dumbest shit you've ever seen. It's so good.
It's really good. You know that the developers were like, oh yes.
Yeah, there's
we're
like
doing this.
5 like what do you call them on the guns? Like
Barrels.
the barrels.
Yeah.
It's just going way off.
5
Or you have
barrels.
multiple like
Whoop.
magazines, like handles, just going off the bottom of the screen. It's like what?
It's so good. Yeah, you're like, what does this gun in 3D look like? Because like it doesn't
Oh,
look
I
that
wish.
way in 3D.
It's great because
Yeah.
like I was googling like optimal gun setups, and when I saw what they were, it was like, oh man, I actually was able to reproduce them. But it's like, this is the stupidest thing ever. Like you can
Unusable.
actually Google them right now. Just Google
Yeah.
like the best pistol setup, the best machine gun setup in Resonance of Fate. Just Google image search, and it's like, what am I looking at?
But yeah, you won't have like I have a Brady Games guide from back then for Resonance of Fate. So
Oh,
like
do
you
you
know
have any versus books?
no, but what I'm trying to say
Versus books
here
is pretty
is
cool.
like this is kind of an end of an era. I know it's an old fart thing, but it also also indie games never really had these kinds of things, and a lot of games that are being released now are indie games or smaller games. So it just kind of sucks. I would love like a Sexy Brutale one, for instance.
Oh
because
my
that would
god,
be
a
cool.
Sexy
That would
Brutale
be
guide
really
or like a
cool.
Salt and Sanctuary guide would be freaking sweet.
Yeah, really cool. So it's a shame, that we're losing that potential from one of the major players.
Although I will say for the Sexy Brutale, you can get, it's not quite lore, but like you can get a proper full color instruction manual on like the GameStop PS4
neat.
release, which comes with the soundtrack CD as well. So like you can get a physical copy of the Sexy Brutale in stores, but I don't know if it's Western only. Like it might be a GameStop exclusive. I'm not 100% on this.
Gotcha. All right, well, we can move on to other topics here. I just want to go through a couple things here. SNK's 40th anniversary collection, which I did mention earlier, that was spearheaded by Frank Cifaldi, it is shipping right now. And I am getting my limited edition from the NIS store. I cannot wait for this because it has just some obscure, weird games on it. And this is for Switch only, which it kind of stinks that it's Switch only, but I'm okay with it. But that's because I have a Switch. But
Yeah, exactly.
but it should be. I wish it was for PS4 as well. But
I wonder if it'll get like a later release date or something.
yeah, it's possible. I mean, it's just that arcade games are doing really, really well on the Switch right now.
Yeah,
so,
for sure. Yeah.
they're just selling so damn well that I think it would be stupid if it wasn't on the Switch.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go over the finalized list because I went over the initial list a while ago, but now there are 13 DLC free DLC games added to the list that so I want to mention this. So the arcade and NES version of Alpha Mission, the arcade and NES version of Athena, Crystalis, which is a big game for me. I finally want to play through this. I have a boxed NES copy of it, and I've never beaten it, so I really want to play it. And this will be a good way to do it because, it'll be on the go and that kind of thing. This game is very similar to a Zelda type game, but it's like a post-apocalyptic theme to go along with it. So it's really kind of cool. It's like sword and sorcery, but like in the future, and the future sucks. So it's one of those. But that, of course, didn't have an arcade version, so that wasn't included. And Icarai Warriors 1, 2, and 3, NES and console versions.
Oh.
I am particularly...
or NES and arcade versions, you mean?
What did I say?
NES and console.
Oh, oops.
Yeah.
NES and arcade versions. The NES versions of the first two in particular are real garbage, but the arcade versions of all three are pretty fun. So I'm looking forward to that. Guerrilla War, NES, and arcade. That one is very similar to Icarai Warriors, so the arcade version will be fun. They implemented the unique mechanics of those games. Those 4 games had a joystick that rotated, so you could rotate your character and shoot, kind of similar to like a Smash TV kind of setup, but they gave you a shoot button so you could turn and move with the same hand. So they replicated that, so that's really neat. Prehistoric Isle, which is a shmup, I'm excited to play that. POW, which is a beat 'em up, that's okay. Psycho Soldier, which looks fun, that's the sequel to Athena, and also has some connections with the King of Fighters series.
Yeah, when you play as Athena in like Capcom vs SNK 2 and King of Fighters and stuff, all of her moves are like Psycho whatever, like Psycho Ball, Psycho Sword.
Oh.
Yeah, it's all from that, and her music shows up in the games from time to time as well.
Speaking of all that, by the way, the Icarai Warriors are Ralph and Clark, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and they're like seriously badass in King of Fighters, doing all these like body slams and things like that.
They're also in the later entries of the Metal Slug games as well.
Oh, nice.
I didn't know that.
So, yeah. You have Street Smart, which is an early fighting game. Don't bother. I'm just being honest. TNK 3, which is NES and arcade version. That's actually a pretty fun game. That, I believe, has the rotating joystick as well. Vanguard, which is an old-style shmup. But here come the DLC games, and these are coming down the line, but they're coming for free, so it's really cool. A lot of these are really, really early SNK games, and it's really cool that they're putting on them just for historical purposes. Chopper 1, Fantasy, Munch Mobile, Satsuki vs. Commander, and Time Soldiers. And let's see that's the first pack. It's coming in multiple packs. Really cool. So World Wars, Beastbusters, which I'm excited for. Do either of you know what Beastbusters is?
I don't know what any of the games you named are, so...
Yeah, I recognize like Icarai Warriors and the Athena games, and that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Beastbusters is a game you would probably recognize if somebody showed it to you. It's similar to T2, the arcade game. It is like a game where you had a gun and you... it's not a light gun game, but like it's same kind of principle. You had a gun and you moved it up and down, like Operation Wolf. You ever play Operation Wolf in the arcade? Where it was like, it was basically like a joystick that you moved around, but it was gun-shaped,
Oh, okay, yeah.
But this is with horror themed, so it's fun. It's really cool.
So it's fun.
Well, some of those can be kind of boring. Revolution X.
It's horror.
Revolution X has, it's Aerosmith themed.
It's fun in its own way, though. He hands you your car key through the fucking TV.
Yeah,
he's like, okay.
And music is the weapon, so you shoot CDs. But
the music is the weapon.
But this is a cool game to put on there because it never really had a console port. So really neat. And it had really good sprite scaling and things like that. Really cool stuff.
Okay.
ZMA Wars, never played that. Paddlemania, I think, is a ping pong game. Bermuda Triangle, which is a cool game that had a sequel on the Neo Geo.
Interesting
all
that
pretty
that game
Neo
was
Geo
lost for
games.
quite some time.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah,
Oh,
it,
that's
it
very
was
funny.
though.
Get
No
it?
console ports. Yeah.
See what I did there?
No.
Yeah.
It was clever.
And Search and
No.
Rescue. I'm done with this.
Moving on.
So yeah, so really cool stuff. A lot of good games. So it launches with 13 games on the cart, and I think total it's gonna have 24 in total. So that's a pretty hefty bundle. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm glad to have this in like the limited edition format, because it's gonna have like a really good book to go along with it, with artwork and all kinds of stuff in it.
Cool.
So really looking forward to that. Let's see what else. Oh, my Virtual Tap arrived. I was about to say Turbo Tap, which is something else, but my Virtual Tap arrived.
Nice.
So this actually, Fakafon, I involved you in my escapades with this.
Uh-oh.
So Furtek is the guy who came up with this. We hope to have him on the show sometime soon, but he came up with a board that will allow you to do video out from a Virtual Boy. So I finally got mine in. I just have to get it installed.
And the thing with the
by
Virtual
Modder.
Boy is everybody makes fun of it for being a shit system, and
But
Games are good.
but the
it did
games
have-
aren't bad.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like some of the games, if you're actually able to play them without being on the stupid system, they're actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you had the first Mario Tennis game.
Well, that Wario game was cool as hell. It had the foreground and
Wario-
background stuff like
Yeah.
Fatal Fury.
Mario Clash was really good. I liked Teleroboxer, which was a Punch-Out like game.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we can forget about Waterworld though.
Oh yeah, fuck Waterworld. But there
What a
there was
weird
also
decision though. Like Waterworld was. I mean, I know that was supposed to be really hyped up and everything, but like it just was not successful.
Speaking
well,
of,
not only that, but
sorry.
it came out like a year later on the Virtual
Yeah, it's
Boy.
like, dude, I don't know, man.
I think
Speaking
it's
of
unfinished.
speaking of that, I have a fun anecdote. When I was at university, we actually got to play a few like really retro consoles and like very obscure consoles. And one of the games they had there was the Virtual Boy with Waterworld on it. And yeah, we tried it, and everyone was like, "Oh my eyes, this sucks."
I was gonna say, and then everyone went blind. The end.
Pretty much. But at least we
it
got
also-
to play it, so you know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of going around in jet skis, isn't it? Isn't that or shooting guys on jet skis, something like that?
I think that's the one on Super Nintendo, actually.
Oh, well. Anyway, bad, stay away. But there are plenty of good games on the system. There's even a Cthulhu mythos game in there. There's an H.P. Lovecraft game.
Really?
That was
What?
only released in Japan, and they just fan translated it. It's an Innsmouth horror game. Innsmouth horror
What the
game.
fuck?
Yeah,
Actually,
and it's a
that-
first-person shooter.
I was gonna say the horror's probably legit if it's like remembering that it's on the Virtual Boy, your face is pressed right up against the system, so like
And it's all
that
red
probably
and
is
black.
actually pretty scary. Like,
yeah, it makes you see red.
well, no, I mean like with a lot of horror games, like you're not wearing it's like VR horror before VR. You're wearing the goggles to play this game, so you're right up in it.
We are VR.
We are VR.
VR Cthulhu.
Virtual reality.
This is for my dad's bookmobile. Oh, bam.
For all of you people that should be way too young for that, we were referencing the Power Rangers kind of rip-off, spin-off, whatever, of VR Troopers.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, you know how Power Rangers, like, there's no such thing as Power Rangers in Japan. It's like the Super
Sure.
Sentai show.
Super Sentai. Yeah.
Well, VR Troopers was like 3 different shows,
Yeah.
like combined. And they made
Yeah,
it
and the
somehow
only
kind
reason
of
why
work.
it was popular, but it ended because they ran out of footage.
It did have an ending though. Like it ended. I
Yeah,
watched
yeah.
all of it with Luminaire. It was a pretty surprisingly good time.
My favorite part is when the dog talks.
With Jack Nicholson's cadence.
So weird.
You better watch out. He's one bad dude. Like, why the fuck did you give him that voice? But the funny thing is, though, like, there was a talking dog in one of the Japanese shows. Like, that wasn't just a weird American, like, let's make it for kids. Like, that was legit. The same thing goes with, like, the main character's best friend, who is, like, well, no, he's got two best friends, but like the woman who's one of the VR troopers is
Sure.
like a constant photo nut, and sure enough, like that was her Japanese counterpart's job in the Japanese show. Like it's just kind of interesting to see like what is surprisingly accurate in this 3 shows in 1 attempt.
So I also have another bit of information about VR Troopers.
What?
Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger, and then later White Ranger, and then a bunch of other Rangers. Probably the
Yeah.
most famous Power Ranger. He actually was the main character of this show during the pilot.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I remember
So,
if you can go onto YouTube and you can watch like the final bloopers when I think the show was like gonna die. So the VR trooper like the
Trooper
actors
bloopers?
are just like it's funny as hell. But like what's great is like they're not fucking around on the camera except for like at the very end. But most of it's just them like voicing over the Japanese footage or whatever, or like even the footage when Ryan is just walking around by himself like thinking carefully and he's voicing over his own scene. But like you have the actors just talking over some of these clips and they're like, man, you think you're the White Ranger, buddy? Trust me, you are no White Ranger. Like it's so funny.
that is funny. Well, moving on here, we have I can't wait to get that up and running. I hope to have my modder take a look at it and add that ability, but it's gonna have VGA out, so maybe we could even do some LP kind of stuff.
That
there
would
with
be
virtual
legitimately
board.
I would
entertaining,
watch
I think.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. I have a lot of games for the system too.
I have one
A lot-
request. We start and end with Waterworld.
Oh
I
god.
actually
only
don't have
game I wanna do.
Waterworld.
No.
There is a flash cart though, so maybe we could get a hold of that. And,
Yeah, now remember this is way before the virtual tap came out, so I just love that somebody's like they made a flash cart for the fucking Virtual Boy. Like if you really wanted to play the Virtual Boy, like any game you want, like no one wants to play the Virtual Boy the intended way.
somebody made a version of Street Fighter 2 for the system too, which is
That's
kinda
funny.
What?
Yeah, it looks really neat because like Dalzim's stage has like parallax scrolling and it's really
Oh,
neat
shit.
looking. So
Virtual
it's
Boy could do that.
yeah, it's really neat. But anyway, Night Slashers finally came out for Switch as well. I wanted to talk about it because these Johnny Turbo games are really amping up the Data East releases on the Switch, and Night Slashers is a good place to start. It's a beat 'em up, where you have like a Van Helsing type character punching the heads off of zombies and stuff. It's really
Yeah.
really fun. Lotus and I may have to just do an LP of that one, and I think we will.
I just love when they have goofy interpretations like that, because in the book, Van Helsing was just like
An old man.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I know about vampires. You're gonna want to get some blood out of her and test it out. And like, he wasn't a fighter in any respect.
He's basically he doesn't have the name Van Helsing, but you know he's supposed to be him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like because of the way he's dressed, he's Victorian era in the middle of the 90s. First of all, so like he's supposed to be him. In the Japanese version, he also like during his combo, he ends with flashing a crucifix. So like you know what's going on here. He's Van
That's pretty
Helsing,
good.
but he's also a ninja.
Kick-ass ninja Van Helsing. Okay, gotcha.
He's also a ninja. He knows martial arts, and he has ice powers. Like it's awesome.
But is he played by Hugh Jackman? That's what I want to know.
Huge Ackman. Yeah, no, it's really cool. There's a ninja girl in it as well, and also like a broy American guy without limbs that were replaced by robot parts.
Wait,
It's
that is
really
so
awesome.
weird. The more you talk about it, the more I recall. Wait, let me see.
It's a good one, and it's one that never got a console port or anything. Like it's never been in a collection before, so it's a real treat to have it, and it's a fun game.
It's weird.
It's a
I
lot of fun.
feel like I might have already played this game.
I'm sure you might have played it in like MAME sometime or something like that.
That might be it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the games that like people would be like, oh man, you're just getting into meme, you should check this out. Like it's like Ninja Baseball Batman.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
another one that's
Yeah,
like that.
or Denshi Cop.
Yeah. Undercover Cops for the uninitiated.
Denshi Cop's the best. Like there's
yeah,
like a
I love
motorcycle
that
on the
game.
ground, and you just pick it up with one hand and start beating people with it. And like you're not like a robot or anything. Like
Nope,
you're a
you're
normal
just a
person.
normal
You just
dude.
lift it. Fuck you. It's fine.
Kind of like in Fighting Force 2. That was ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fighting Force
Everything
2, there's a
explodes in
reference to
Fighting
me.
Force
You could
2.
just pick up anything that was on the ground. If it wasn't nailed
Nice.
down, you could pick it up.
Yeah, and if you threw it like an office chair, it would explode. Like
That was,
Well, that's
Why?
like GoldenEye 64. Like anything when shot enough explodes.
that was
yeah,
ridiculous.
it's awesome.
Look at this wooden
Yeah.
chair.
Look at this metal chair.
And finally, Netflix. I have this final last thing. It's a denouement of sorts. It's an end of an era. Netflix is stopping their service on the original Wii console.
Yeah, I
during
think the real
January.
news here is that up until now they still had service on the original Wii.
Yeah.
Take this in perspective. You and I don't use it like this, but I know a lot of people's parents that still use the
yeah.
Wii as a Netflix box. Because that's what they're used to. They may even have a TV that can do Netflix, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like my girlfriend's parents actually have a Wii hooked up to their their TV so they can watch Daredevil and stuff like that.
That's incredible.
And they're not the only ones. This you got to remember that the number one device for watching Netflix when Netflix was first getting going with their streaming service was the Wii.
No, yeah, when it was first going in fucking like 2006 or something.
Yeah, but if you're used to it,
Yeah.
and we keep progressing because we want the newest and latest and greatest. But a lot of people just work with something until it doesn't work.
What they
anymore,
have,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this is how they watch Netflix. I mean, it's always how they watch Netflix, and I can't blame them. I mean, a lot of times that's the way it was. I actually still have. I don't know if this will ever turn into a collector's item. Probably will not. But I still have my Netflix disc for Wii when you couldn't just download it.
Yeah,
as
I
a
know
channel?
that my brother
Oh,
got that.
goodness.
I don't know if we still have it anymore, but yeah, we definitely had that.
That belongs to the museum
I,
now.
I
Yeah,
have
right.
one even better.
That's like the PS3's like Linux disc or something.
No, I have the PS3's Netflix disc as well.
Oh, that's obscure.
Yeah, even more obscure. So, it's Netflix on a Blu-ray for your PS3 if you want it.
Jesus.
But it's actually kind of cool because I can think of like a billion different things that I can suggest to them now. But it's also in time for Christmas. I think they want to try to like get somebody to get them on like a different thing, like a Roku or something like that. So
Yeah.
Oh, I do have one of those.
yeah. I mean, a lot of TVs inherently do it. Like mine and my girlfriend's TV is a really nice smart TV and can already do Netflix and Hulu and all that stuff, and Amazon. But I digress. That a lot of people. I can't even. I found out about this news, but like, how are those people going to find out about this news? I guess you know what. When you boot up Netflix, even on the Wii, they used to give you update notes, so they'll
Yeah.
probably tell people that it's ending. So I hope they do to get that word out because a lot of folks that don't follow this kind of stuff will just turn it on one day and they won't be able to use it, so that'll suck.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was my final bit of news. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order here?
Maybe just quickly say that also Crunchyroll, if I remember correctly, lost
Oh yes,
Funimation.
Oh, this is a big one. Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead, please talk about it.
Well, I don't know much about it because I didn't really read about it. But from what I understand, it's just Funimation. They're removing themselves from Crunchyroll, and I think other services, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I think they have their own service. So maybe they're trying to do that.
Oh,
They
okay.
or they may be gearing up to be acquired by somebody. I could see somebody like Disney buying Funimation now.
Disney again? Man, Disney's just gonna own
they'll do
everything.
They would do it. I selfishly want it because I own their stock, but
Well, that's okay.
they would probably manage the properties a lot better than Funimation would. And Disney usually treats their stuff pretty well when they bring stuff over. But yeah, that's a shame because Crunchyroll, a lot of people really love the service and the way that they do business. I've really never seen many complaints about them, and they're
Yeah, me
losing a
neither.
ton of their content. I think they're losing near half of their content
Yeah,
because of
Funimation
this.
is like crippling Crunchyroll by leaving.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's a
if
big
I think
shame.
I read like I think it's like 44% of their shows are gone now.
Yeah, like I
Jesus.
said, almost half. Yeah,
Yeah, that's because Funimation owns like every modern localized anime ever.
that's a real fucking shame. Maybe they're going to Netflix. That could be another possibility,
I
or
don't
maybe they're
know
going to
because
Hulu.
Disney is leaving Netflix, so maybe like you said, Disney is gonna acquire them. I don't know if they
Well,
would want to.
there's a reason for that. Disney is in the process of buying out Fox, 20th Century Fox, and 20th Century Fox has a major stake in Hulu. So not only that, but Disney's also launching their own streaming service.
Yeah, Disney Plus.
Yeah, Disney Plus, which will have the new, it'll have a new Star Wars
Oh, well, that
show
sucks.
on it.
I don't think Canada has Hulu. I'm not sure, but I never saw it.
Oh, okay. I would think that would be pretty big there. I'm not sure.
I hope
But
I'm wrong.
yeah, hmm. If you've never heard of it, then that would account for it.
Ah, shit.
Yeah, Hulu's like the second biggest streaming service here in America, next to Netflix. Everything else is just like small time compared to it. So like Crunchyroll is big in its own little box. It's the biggest anime one, focused one, but I would say that that's the third biggest streaming service. I mean, there's Amazon as well. There's Amazon Prime Video, which would probably be in the third place. But yeah, do you have Amazon Prime Video up there?
I honestly don't know.
Well, you have Amazon.com, so you could probably watch
Yeah, we
videos up
probably
there.
do.
Yeah. So anyway, this is a shame, especially without answers. That's the big thing. Is like all of this content is leaving. I hope it doesn't cripple Crunchyroll because from all accounts they seem to be really cool dudes. Really good company, and one that likes their fan base a lot. So I hope it doesn't kill that company, and I hope it lands on all that content goes somewhere. Like it doesn't go someplace stupid. Like, I hope it's not like to a Funimation only kind of thing, because I hate seeing like I would hate to pay for just a certain type of content or content from a certain company.
Yeah.
It kind of stinks. I don't want to subscribe to a service like that. I want to subscribe to something that gives you a lot of choice. Like Netflix is okay. I'm okay with subscribing to, but then you start getting into HBO Go and things like that, and then you're just basically paying it for everything a la carte, and you lose out. I'm not a big fan of that. So I hope it lands someplace good, and I hope that Crunchyroll lands on its feet somehow. I hope it's not out of business because of this. It's devastating. Any other points
No, I'm
you
cool.
want to make, guys? Okay.
Nope. Yeah, I'm good.
All right, so that is the show for this week. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, you can listen to us derail the conversation over and over and over again. And give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. And you know what? Derailing the conversation is actually kind of why I started the podcast to begin with. So
Fuck
it was
structure.
always it was always me and Lotus talking about like all kinds of stuff and going off on all kinds of tangents. So
Yeah, the podcast was originally supposed to be like Vice and his friends, just like phone conversations, just like
Exactly.
whatever you happen to be talking about.
So
Well,
so
I
the
get-
structure is really not the focus. It's actually like in order for us to have a show, it has structure, but
Yeah.
I never intended it or wanted it to have structure.
Yeah, stop talking about that thing you want and start talking about this thing instead. Like,
It's meant to showcase how off the rails we could go. So anyway, you can catch us on Thursday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Switch, and Battle.net.
And you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you're interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or even getting on a Discord chat with me and other patrons, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
Oh yeah, and trust me, the streams might be fun to watch on YouTube, but you want to participate in them because the chat is like 90% of the stream.
The chat's the whole other world, yeah.
The chat's a lot of fun. I'm even in on that from time to time.
Just dropping puns while I'm playing freaking Eternal Ring.
Oh, you have no idea. And you can find me on YouTube under Fakafon. You can find me on Twitter under Lou Fakafon. That's L-O-U-P, because I'm French and French is stupid. Or
Laup.
Loop. And you can also read my webcomic, Kadrula-chan, on kadrula.com. And I also have a Patreon, which you can participate in.
Yeah, and hopefully one of these days I can join the Patreon club and have one of our own here for Corrective Consciousness. Maybe when we start putting up some Let's Plays, which we have actually some plans to do in the near future. So look out for that. I don't know when it's going to happen, but we've been working on it. So
if you need some extra help, I'm here.
Hey, we would the more the merrier. Geez, Lotus and I are thinking about doing some. Since I've been getting into these arcade releases, some more LPs having to do with that kind of thing, like Night Slashers and things like that. We had done some in the past, for Golden Axe, and I think a lot of people really liked those. And what was it was Alien Storm as well. We did Alien.
Well, we
Storm.
didn't record that, but we played that. That was a lot of fun.
Okay. We should record that one as well. But yeah, we had a lot of fun doing those, the Golden Axe games. So we most likely will run through the Capcom beat 'em up collection there that came out for Switch, and maybe Night Slashers and a few others. So be on the lookout for that. Maybe when we get around to it.
2020.
So we will catch everybody on Thursday.
Until next time, everyone.
Good night, everybody.